Welcome to the MMA Fan Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Stu and Blake.
Cory, hey, how's it going?
Hey, how are you?
Good, thanks, good. So thanks so much for coming on the show. I wanted to ask initially, because you put out an Instagram post recently mentioning that you've been out for a year, and you had some health implications. You were getting like regular headaches or something like that. I just wanted to check: are you okay? Is everything all right now? And do you know what it was that was happening?
Yeah, so still kind of not 100% certain on what it was. Obviously theorized concussion, just because of obviously the sport I'm in. But yeah, I'm 100% now. So, it's been a rough year. Like it was the ankle and the headaches, but all good to go. So hoping to get I've signed a fight, so I'll get back in there next year and looking to have a busy year to make up for it.
Excellent. So in that kind of year of being injured, I take it you were still training at some level.
So the headache was actually the first time in my life that I have not been able to train like through or around something.
Yeah.
I would try to ride the bike, and literally like the second my heart rate got above like 110 beats per minute, like I would get a headache. So
wow.
For me, that was really hard. Like obviously I couldn't lift weights, I couldn't do it. It's like I actually genuinely had to take like a month or so of just complete not training. Like I was in the gym every day watching and everything, but like it was killing me. Like even with my ankle, like a couple of days after surgery, I was back in like lifting upper body or just like doing seated exercises. And I've trained every day of the week since I was like 10 or 11. So this was kind of the first really tough injury for me that I've like not been able to do anything around. So I'm definitely glad to be back. This was a very it was very concerning. Like it's the first time I've kind of had something that I didn't really know what was wrong. B, like I couldn't train around it. Like it was tough, but like you say, like it's all through now, and I'm just happy to be back on the mats every day.
Well, yeah,
Wonderful.
I mean, you say, of course, that would be incredibly concerning. Was there any point where you were really worrying that maybe this could be a long-term thing that you're having to deal with?
I definitely got a little bit dramatic. Like I said, I was talking to my dad about it a lot, and like there was a point, like I said, like they were like, it was like I think it ended up being like 3 or 4 months of headaches, like not being able to really train properly. Like I pushed through it for the first month, but it got to the point where like if I did a session, I'd have to spend the rest of the day in bed. Like so, it was just kind of to the point where like it's not healthy to take headache tablets before you train and then have to have to go hide in your room all day. So I had to stop. And like after a couple of months and after going to like the PI and having all the testing and taking all the supplements they told me to, like doing everything that I could, I had all the MRAs and they didn't show up anything, which is a good thing. Obviously it shows no long-term damage. But it definitely got to the point where I was kind of like, okay, is it something that I have to push through? Is it like, is it something that's going to like, kind of put a stop to things? And it definitely got like kind of to that point where I was, starting to worry a little bit. But, I tried to stay positive, like stayed in the gym every day, watching, learning, just finding little things that I could do outside the gym to keep myself busy. And, luckily they cleared up and I was able to get back into it. And, I'm back sparring and everything now with no problems. So it's a great relief.
Well, it's great to hear that you're much better. Sorry, Stuart. It's great to hear that you're much better now. And I know I've heard you in interviews before saying that like if there's 2 practices one after the other, you treat it as like one practice. You are someone that constantly works. You hate being told to rest and stuff like that. So that must have been so frustrating for you to have that month of just doing nothing.
Yeah, like I say, if anything, it was probably good for me. Like I say, it's I've come back now. I've kind of like I'm definitely making a priority like with my recovery and stuff as well. I'm trying to be conscious of not overtraining, not taking too much damage to the head. Like I'm definitely, I think it definitely like opened my eyes a little bit, and I'm definitely going to start being like a lot smarter with my training. I've always had that. No one's ever had to like make me work harder, make me be more stubborn. Like I've always had those traits, but I definitely need to maybe listen to the people around me. Like say like maybe doing 5 or 6 sessions in a day is not good for me, as I've been told ever since growing up. I just said everyone, I'm getting old now. I'm 22. Like I've not got.
Yeah, ancient now, ancient. Did you find it testing for your, obviously your physical health was being assessed and was being worked on, but did you find not being able to train for a month, and obviously you was doing the best you can, as you said, you would go to the gym and watch and try and learn as much as you can, but how tough was that on your mental health, not being able to train daily, which is something that obviously is a fundamental part of your existence?
Yeah, it was very frustrating. Like I did definitely, like, I felt kind of lost. I put everything I have, everything I am into the sport and into training. Like I said, I'm usually in the gym from like 8:30, 9 a.m. in the morning to like 9 p.m. at night. So for me, it was kind of like I did kind of feel lost and not sure what to do myself. Luckily, I have a lot of I have a lot of hobbies. I have like other stuff I can like kind of put my focus on. But it's not the same. Like when you spend your whole life doing something, and it's my job too. So it's kind of like it was very frustrating. And like I say, I'm around it all the time too. So kind of like I felt like the kid that's been benched. I was just sat on the side looking sorry for myself, like all the time. Like the amount of times guys would be training, they'd look at me and be like, geez, you're like bringing down the mood. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I want to punch you guys.
Well, you talk about being the kid that was benched. I mean, let's talk about Cory the kid. So if we go back, just tell us a little bit about how you found yourself, in the world of combat sports.
So I come from a very like active family, like they're very big on like being active, being healthy and everything. So it was kind of important for them that I found like a hobby and everything. I tried every sport growing up, like literally like you name it, I tried it. And I'm what Uriah calls naturally ungifted. So kind of didn't really find anything that suited me for a while. But my mum was going to karate with I think my little brother was probably like 3 at the time. Like they had like a mums and toddlers like karate thing. And I ended up joining her one of the days to give it a go. I tried it in the past and I hated it, but I was about 10 and it kind of clicked, and it was something that like I wasn't terrible at. My size didn't matter, so I clicked with that. I started competing in that regularly, and then the gym introduced like jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, boxing. So I was already at the gym doing like a session or 2 every night, so I just kind of started jumping into those classes. And then it was just one of those things, like they say you catch the bug, but like it literally was like that. I started competing in jiu-jitsu. I started wanting to compete in like boxing, and then just eventually like I was training everything, competing in everything, so it only really made sense to to give MMA a try. So my dad found a local MMA gym. I went down there. They had a young lad about my age that was, I think was like 13 at the time, that was in the adults classes. He was the same size as me, so it worked perfect. I started jumping in the adults classes there and kind of just never looked back. I had my first amateur fight at 15, turned pro at 18, and here we are.
Was that by any chance? Was that Richard Shaw's gym?
No, so my dad was in the military and he was based in Colchester at the time. So that was BKK fighters in Essex.
All right. So in my hometown of Essex, lovely.
Yeah, Stu's down the road.
There you go.
Cage Warriors do regular events in Colchester now. They do the Essex Cage Warrior stuff in Colchester. I'm sure that's where it is.
Yeah, so the Cage Warriors Academy in Essex is actually run by my manager and my old head coach, Jack Mason from BKK. So it's a great show if ever you're around and you want to go watch some MMA. Like they like the amateur talent on that card is like a very high level.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, well, one thing I wanted to ask you is it true that your mum used to be a fighter and you actually have fought on the same card?
Yes, so we made our amateur debuts on the same card, and I believe her pro debut and my last amateur fight was on the same card too.
How was that? Were you in any way like in the same dressing rooms, or like did one of you corner the other one? Like, how did that work?
So I cornered my mum for pretty much all of her fights except for one, because I was fighting on the same night in I think it was Preston. So I was like a few hours away. So she's like backstage, she watched my fight on her phone and then went out and fought herself. But yeah, I cornered my mum for all of her fights. She had her second fight on Cage Warriors. I cornered that and everything. So yeah, I was in her corner for most of the fights, which I think if anything helped. There was one fight that she didn't have me in her corner for, and I was sat in the seats, and that one was definitely a lot tougher. I think being in the corner helps because like I I feel like I'm in control a little bit. You know, I can help. I'm not just
Yeah.
sat there watching my mum in a fight. Like, it's a bit more. No, I feel like I can approach it a bit more the business head. Like, I'm in the corner, I'm helping, I'm there. Like, you know, she's a fighter. She's not my mum. But like the one fight that I watched in the crowds was definitely a lot harder. So yeah, but yeah, I cornered her for most of her fights.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, I have heard from a lot of people who's either siblings or usually sons or daughters, less so parents, but whenever they're like watching them fight, it's more nerve-wracking when they themselves have a fight. Is that the same with you? Like, are you more nervous if you were cornering your mum or something like that rather than your fight yourself?
Oh, definitely. I always say it like with anyone, though, not even just my mom. Like with my teammates, like if it's someone that I care about, like I say, I care about my teammates. They're all like my closest friends and everything. And then obviously my mom's my mother. Like I always get so nervous. Like I cornered one of our guys, like one of my good friends, a few weeks ago, and we were literally about to walk out, and I turned around to my boxing coach, and I was like.
Oh no.
You know, but like I never get nervous for my fights. Like I'm super excited, and I think it's like the control thing. Like you said, like when I'm in there, like it's kind of like anything that happens is like it's on me. So like I feel a little bit more in control. But like when I'm watching my friends fight, it's kind of like, you know, if stuff does go wrong or anything, like I can't help them. So I kind of like I think I feel like a little bit more nervous for them for like in that regard. Like, you know, I kind of like with my fights, I'm just kind of like, oh well, I'm prepared and I've done everything, or like, you know, if it goes wrong, it's on me. So I kind of don't get nervous for it. But like say if I'm not in control, like I definitely get nervous for my friends and the people I care about.
Wonderful. So where are you today? Are you in the UK? Are you in the States?
So I currently live in Sacramento, California.
And so obviously that was, I imagine, because of the move to Team Alpha Male.
So I've been going to Team Alpha Male since I was 16. So I've always kind of had it in my mind that I would like to eventually, like, you know, move out here and make this my home base. The Contenders opportunity was what kind of opened that door for me. I was working on my visa, and then because of the COVID restrictions and stuff, I kind of got them like, you know, I got like a pass on the COVID restrictions because of the Contenders. You know, they gave me like a what you call it, they let me through. So when I come out here, you know, it was kind of a case of if I go home I might get stuck home, but I have a 3-year visa now, so I might as well come out here and stay. So I've just, you know, I came out here in August 2020 and I've just been here since.
How have you found that?
Sorry?
How have you found it?
Oh, it's great. Like I say, I've been coming out here for years and everything, so I already had like a good base set up here. Like I had a good relationship with the coaches and the teammates and everything. So for me, the transition wasn't too different. You know, I've always kind of traveled a lot, and even back home, like I was traveling a lot between gyms. I kind of wasn't like, I never really like settled down anywhere. So it's kind of nice for me to like have somewhere where like everything's under one roof. You know, you know, like I'm not like traveling to like 3 or 4 different gyms every day. I'm not driving for 3-4 hours. Like, you know, the gym takes me 6 minutes to get to. It's like right down the road, and you know, I can just be there all day, train all day. I've got all my coaches, all my teammates, everything I kind of need under one roof. So it's kind of nice for me. Like it's kind of more of a lifestyle out here. I feel like you know, I can kind of like live the fighting lifestyle. So it's definitely it's been a positive move for me. Like I'm really enjoying it.
Is there anything is there anything you're missing about home?
I mean, my family, of course, but it's difficult to say. Like, say, like because this has always been something, like this has always been a goal of mine, and I've always felt like this is the place I need to be to kind of take my career to that next step. It's kind of like hard to miss it. I don't.
Yeah.
I always feel like I sound bad when I say I don't miss home, but I like, you know, I talk to my family every day, and like this has always been a big goal of mine. So I don't want to like waste that by wishing I was somewhere when, you know, I was always wishing to be here. You know, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, you're living out your dream, so of course, and no one's going to begrudge you that. You know, you're doing your absolute best to live out your dreams. I wondered if anyone was sending you like a care package of like Ribena and Cadbury's chocolate or any things that you can't get in the States.
I definitely have a list of stuff that I'm gonna take an empty case home, and I'm just gonna come back with like so much British stuff.
Like what?
Yeah.
Go on. What are the things that you miss the most?
I mean, you've already said Cadbury's chocolate. I'm not a big Ribena fan, I'll be honest. Though I didn't realize that they don't have blackcurrant stuff out here. I discovered that like a few weeks ago, that like Americans just don't know what blackcurrants are, and that blew my mind. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. they don't really have like any good like instant coffee or anything out here. Like they're all coffee snobs. Really trying to think. I did have a list, like I genuinely had a list. I want to go home just to have a Nando's, to be honest.
Yes, Nando's. Great stuff.
There's a friendly Welsh voice though. Mason Jones is at Team Alpha Male, isn't he?
Yeah, he's not like permanently here, but he comes and goes. He was out here for a few months for his last fights. You know, he's back and forth a lot.
And so I take it that the level of sparring and the, I guess just the level in general of coaches and stuff like that is going to be far higher than what you're going to get in the UK at the moment at Team Alpha Male. Is that a sort of fair assumption? Obviously, there's huge gyms in the UK that are evolving, you know, constantly. But do you feel that Team Alpha Male is offering something that at the time you couldn't get in the UK?
So I've always said that from like a coaching standpoint and like a technical standpoint, I really don't think the UK gyms, especially the ones that I've gone to, you know, I've gone to like some of the best gyms, or pretty much, I think I've been to pretty much every gym in the UK. Like from a technical and a coaching standpoint, I really don't think they're far behind. And I definitely think that, you know, there's places where, you know, gyms in the UK like excel and could probably use that out here. Like there's pros and cons with everything in regards to that. The main thing for me was the training partners and the bodies. Like one of the main reasons I was having to travel so much was to find people to work with, you know, whereas like at the moment I have, you know, 2 ranked UFC fighters in my weight class on the mats with me every day. You know, I have like Team Alpha Male's renowned for being rather small in stature, so I have a lot of tiny men to work with, you know. So for me it's more that side of things. Like I have a lot of high level bodies like to work with, as well as like elite coaches, you know. I work with like the best coaches, you know, around at this gym. You know, I have Joey Rodriguez for my striking, Danny Castillo for my grappling, like Chris Holdsworth teaches the jiu-jitsu. I've got Faber giving me privates and stuff and work with me in class. Like, so like I have like the highest level of coaching, but I also have like say all the training partners too. So for me, it's like say it's more having everything like together in one team and easily accessible to me. I don't have to like search out people to work with. I don't have to travel to work with them. Like I have the top girls available to me like all the time.
Was that one of your biggest things? Because I mean, we spoke to Jojo Wood now, formerly Jojo Corderwood, a while back, and she was saying that she felt like as a female mixed martial artist, one of the biggest obstacles for her to overcome was the lack of female training partners. She said she was constantly training with men, and that's what prompted her move to Syndicate MMA over in Vegas. Is there anything? Or maybe it's that, but is there anything that you felt in your young career as a female mixed martial artist, that those kind of extra obstacles or extra hurdles that we as male fans may not realize is a problem for female athletes?
So I don't have a huge issue with the whole having to train with females all the time. Like I like training with men a lot of the times, because when I do come up against females, like it just feels like so much easier. But I do definitely need those female looks regularly, just because like I say, like we move different, we flow different. Like girls bend weird, like, you know, there's stuff that girls do that like guys physically cannot do, and like they can't, looks that they can't give you. And also like basically even little things like I'm really short. Like I think coming up, like I never up until I think it was like my 3rd pro fight was like the first time I fought someone like my height. And like it's very rare that I find someone to train with that's like my height. You know, I round up to 5'3" and I have like tiny little T-Rex arms. So for me, it's good to have like. So for me, it's good to have like women like my size to kind of like say like even little things like not just how they move, like getting used to the reach, the height, like, you know, not throwing my kicks too high. Like it's definitely a look that I need regularly just to kind of like check where I'm at. And it's also good to have those tests. Like, you know, I always used to say because I've always been kind of like studious, and I like you know, I'm kind of like by the book a little bit. I always used to say like my training is like it is literally like training, it's lessons. I build, and then like my fights were like my tests. You know, like when we were at school, like you study, and then you have like a test at the end of the term. That would be like my fighting. But I've started to realize that like having girls in there to test myself against regularly also is good for me to see kind of like my improvements and stuff, because there is no way to measure it in MMA. Like, you know, it's not like lifting weights, like I can't see the numbers go up, like, so sometimes it can be hard to see your progress. So for me, having women to not compete against, you know, like we're training partners and, you know, there's no winning and losing and everything, but it is good to be able to say, oh, like, you know, like say at the moment I have Verna Jandarova on the mats. Like she's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, like world champion, you know, she's ranked in the strawweight division. She's really good, you know, and like for me to like be able to go against her and be like, okay, so she did this, but like next week I'm not going to let her do that. You know, it's like little ways to monitor my progress. So I think that for me is definitely a huge one with training with the women. But like I love training with the guys too. Like, you know, some of my main training partners are dudes. And it only, like say, it only makes it easier when I do go against these women.
And what about outside of training, like outside of combat sports? What do you like to do?
There's a world outside the gym.
Apparently so.
No, I like to paint, like read. I'm kind of like, you know, I'm not the most social person. You know, I'm in the gym all day, like socializing around people. So I kind of just like to come back, chill. Like I said, I've been doing a lot of painting and stuff. I've got like a little art page set up. And then just kind of like reading and stuff. Just I'm not like, say, I don't like going out doing stuff. Like I like hiking and everything, but I kind of like just being alone and chilling by myself because I'm in the gym all day anyway.
Lovely.
And where did the nickname Poppins come from? Because you were the Hobbit for a short period of time, and then it was Poppins.
Poppins was Uriah, so he hated the Hobbit, like, and he was
why?
I guess they just didn't understand it because obviously they're all like hobbits too, so it wasn't funny to them.
And they've probably got hairier feet as well, which makes them more Hobbit-like. So yeah,
I think they were like offended or something. I don't know. They're American. So anyway, so Faber was like petitioning to change it to Poppins because British. Well, like he always just says, like, he's like, oh, you're really well spoken and articulate and proper, and he's like, you know, I babysit the kids all the time, and then he also just found it funny because he started saying that I was like popping girls in the face and popping their joints, and he just kind of like ran with it for ages, and then he ended up like doing like an Instagram poll and everything, and like he was really petitioning to get this changed. So when he got me the contenders fight, I was like, okay, as a thank you, I was like, I'll change my fight name for you. So it was kind of like a bit of homage to Faber and like a thank you, but you know, it is a little bit more marketable, and I have kind of managed to run with it a little bit, so I like it.
Oh, it's great. I love the idea of you being like in charge of the creche at Team Alpha Male, just in charge of all the kids there.
Literally, like everyone's always giving me stick for it. Like my friend literally texted me the other day and was like, "You're always with either a dog or a toddler," and I was like, "Yeah, pretty much."
We always like to ask fighters, Cory, about the kind of process before they make that walk to the octagon, just that kind of the moments in the room before you walk out. And then we like to ask also about that walk out and what's going on in your mind. Is there a specific routine that you have in that room before you make that walk? And if you're happy to talk about it, you know, what is that?
So I used to be like your stereotypical like young thinking I could do anything kid, so I wouldn't like, usually I wouldn't really warm up much. I could just do a little bit of shadow boxing, like before a jiu-jitsu match I'd like roll my shoulders and just jump on the mats. But what I do now, like I'll just run a team warm-up. So like what we would do on the mats in practice, like I'll just do that backstage, you know, I'll do the jogging, I'll do the line drills, like I'll do everything that I would do on my day-to-day like warm-up, you know, before sparring and everything. Like I will do that, because at the end of the day, like when I go out there, I want to treat it like a spa day. I don't want to get nervous. I don't want to be putting too much pressure on myself. Like, you know, every fight I have is the biggest fight of my career so far. So I don't want to be going out there like, oh, this is huge. Like I like to try to treat it like a spa day. So like say I'll go in there, I'll do my warm up, I'll do like my shadow boxing, I'll move around the floor with my coaches, but like I'll just treat it like I'm gonna go out and do some sparring. So that way I don't get like say I'm not getting nervous, I'm not building up to this huge thing. And that's pretty much it. Like I say, I just like try to keep it kind of like, oh, this is an everyday thing. Like, you know, I just do my usual warm up and just kind of treat it like another day in the gym.
Well, you mentioned like one of the things I wanted to ask you as well was that you in your pro debut, you seem to get frustrated with yourself after your opponent went back to the stall at the end of round one, but then they didn't come out for round two. This is your pro debut. and your opponent, who'd had about 4 fights, I think, by that stage, and you were on your pro debut, they were like, I'm not coming back out to face this woman again. This is, I've had enough. And you seem frustrated. You seem like, oh, like as if like you're disappointed that she got to the stall to begin with. I'm like, are you always quite hard on yourself? Or was that just like a one-off thing? Or are you always quite like kind of hard on yourself and expecting a lot of yourself? Because that sounds like quite a good result to me for someone to go up. I don't want to come back out for round 2.
Yeah, I mean, I was having fun, and I felt like she stole my win because she quit. So I was a little bit more frustrated with her. But no, definitely, I'm my harshest critic. Like it's been a thing my whole career, and I think it's a good thing. Like you say, like there's nothing worse than coming out of a fight and thinking, you're already like the best thing since sliced bread. Like it's a running joke with my coach from back home, like my manager right now, Jack Mason. Like I'd come in, I'd have a fight on Saturday, and then I'd come in on Monday with a notebook with a list of things that I did wrong and I need to improve on. Like I'd walk in the gym, and he'd go, oh, the notebook. So it's definitely, I am definitely my harshest critic, and I'm definitely quick to kind of like try to make those improvements. And because in the end, I want to be the best in the world, so I don't, and I know that I'm never going to be the finished product. Like there's always improvements to make. So yeah, pretty much every fight, like I never come out and I'm like, that was great. I come out and I'm like, right, I should have done this, this, and this. Like even my last fight, I tore my ankle in like the start of the 3rd round. I come out, got my ankle seen too. We went back to the hotel room, me, Uriah, like Danny and Jack sat down and watched the fight. Like so pretty quick to assess and judge my performances. And like, I'm the same in sparring and training. I definitely expect the best from myself all the time.
Do you take a lot of these things in your stride as well? I mean, you said from the age of 16 you was going to Team Alpha Male, and for most people to sort of walk into a gym like that and see people like Uriah Faber and all the other legends that have come from that gym, and then to find yourself then in the Contender Series, and then to find yourself fighting in the UFC, are these things like, as you touched upon it, that's not that normal for most people. These are huge things that you're doing here at such a young age as well. Like, do you ever suffer from imposter syndrome? Is that something that ever kind of finds its way into your kind of mindset, or do you just take everything in your stride?
I don't know what imposter syndrome is.
No, imposter syndrome. Well, it's a new thing, really, that people are talking about, which is that whole kind of thing of like of self-doubt, effectively, and thinking like, like in your situation, you've achieved so much in such a short period of time, but it would be thinking, oh, am I not worthy of this? I know that I as an actor can get it, where I'll be like, oh, I know I've achieved a certain amount, which is great, but then I'll wake up some mornings and just think, oh, I'm actually quite shit, and I've probably just pulled the wool over people's eyes, and it's probably not going to carry on going well for me. It'll probably all come to an end very soon. And then there's other mornings you wake up and think, oh no, I can do what Gary Oldman does. That's great. I can smash it. But that's that thing. Some people, they just have those mornings you wake up and you just think they're not convinced that they are good enough or that they've earned where they need to be. Do you ever get that, or as Stu says, are you just taking it all in your stride?
Like I said, I've been kind of around this for so long to where like I know that there's highs and lows with this sport. I know kind of like everything that comes in. Like there's definitely been like, like I'll have a rough spar day and then I'll be like, pull yourself together, like you're in the UFC, you need to do better than this. But like I never kind of like, I know the work I've put in, like it kind of makes me confident. I'm not like arrogant or anything, but like I'm also confident in the fact that, like you say, I've been doing, 3, 4, 5 sessions a day ever since I was, 12. So for me, it's like I know I've put the work in. Like I know what I want to achieve, and I also know that I'm like say I said earlier, like I'm never going to be the finished article. Like I know there's always improvements to make. So I try not to like, I don't like, as much as I'll assess and be like, I need to improve this, and this. Like I don't beat myself up over it. I kind of like say I take like more of a logical, studious kind of approach to it. I'm like, okay, like as long as I know what needs to be improved and worked on, like I know I can do it. Whereas like I think if I was sat there and I was just kind of like frustrated and I didn't know what to work on and everything, like it would be a different story. But I think because I'm able to kind of self-criticize and kind of like I have the best people around me and everything, like as much as sometimes I might feel like I'm not performing to a standard that I want to be performing at, like I also know that I can get there because, and like I'm one of those people that say like if something's not going your way, like you work on it and you just do better. So like I don't ever sit there and I'm like, oh, this isn't going my way, like I'm not good enough. Like I'm like, no, I need to work harder, I need to be better. Like I take a different kind of mental approach to it, I suppose.
Yeah.
But no, I don't really ever like sit there and
Yeah,
That's
that's a very healthy way to approach it.
I was going to say the same thing. We keep talking over each other, Stu. Also, you keep using the phrase spa day, and my idea of a spa day and your idea of a spa day are very different. Very, very different.
I did think that. I was saying it and I was like, I hope they know I mean sparring.
Yeah, I think everyone knows. It's just, as I say, I do keep flicking to like, oh, I'd love a spa day right now. Again, very different spa day to what you're after. But one of the other things that happened in your last Cage Warriors fight, I think, is you suggested Graham Boylan dust off the strawweight belt and you fight for the belt. And that unfortunately didn't happen. But what did happen was you got your Contender Series fight. And I was going to say to you, do you ever look back and go, oh, it's a shame I didn't fight for a Cage Warriors belt? Or do you think, well, I was fighting for my UFC contract instead, and the stakes for that are pretty high as well? So does it really bother you at all looking back on that?
So for me, I've never really prioritized like medals and belts and stuff like that. Like, I was one of those kids that I go to jiu-jitsu comp, even if I won like, golds, like straight away, they were off, they were in my bag, like I was on to the next thing. Because at the end of the day, like I have in my head, like I have bigger goals to achieve. So like definitely like say like the Contender shot was a higher step on the ladder to my big goal, my big dream. At the end of the day, like my goal is to be the best in the world. Like however I get there, whatever I get along the way, it doesn't really matter so long as I get there. And that's what I always said, like whichever route I choose, like, whether I go Contenders, whether I got signed straight away, whether I got the belt, like all of that is just like steps like in the journey. So to me, like the belt wasn't necessarily like a huge thing. It was just like, for like marketability, for like, for an accolade on almost like the fight CV, like it would have looked good, but like because it wasn't necessary, it wasn't like something that I personally wanted. It was more just from like a business standpoint and like a career step. So for me, it wasn't like a huge deal that I didn't get the opportunity to fight for the belt. It would have been nice, but luckily it wasn't something that I needed.
Okay, and just want to ask you, sort of, just to get your kind of thoughts on it, really, Cory. That for somebody that's still so young but has been involved in women's MMA for so long, like talk about how you've seen women's MMA in the UK as well, like really, really evolve over the last sort of 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Like what sort of significant evolutions and changes and exciting things have you seen from the UK MMA scene for women?
Yeah, like I say, in terms of like generalized like women's MMA, like there's just the standard has gone up. Like if I watch like old school women's, like even like the UFC fights, like up until I always used to say up until like the top 5, the top 10, like I really didn't rate any of the women. Like just my honest opinion, like I didn't think the standard was there in comparison to like the men, because obviously it was a small talent pool. But now if you watch it, I really think that a lot of the fights are on par, if not like a higher technical level than most of the men's fights you watch. And there's a lot of women outside of the rankings now that are, they're absolute savages. Like it's, they're really high level. You have high level practitioners in all disciplines. You have people that are putting it together very well. And I just feel like the standard in general has just really risen. In terms of UK MMA, like even on like, because I've been going to a lot of like the local shows to support our guys, and like one thing I was discussing with someone yesterday is like in the UK, like even the amateur standard is like so high, like in comparison to like, without sounding bad, like I've gone to a few of the amateur shows out here, and like it just looks like a bar fight. They're swinging from the hip, like it's just not nice to watch, like from a sport, from a sports perspective. Like I love this as a sport. Like I'm not one of those people that like, I don't like watching people just slug it out with no technique and everything. Like that's just not something that I enjoy watching. But like from like the UK amateur scene, like a lot of their fights now look like low level pro fights. Like I feel like the standard is so high. And it goes back to what I was saying about the Cage Warriors Academy in Southeast that Jack's running. Like all of the amateur fights, like they all train professionally, they all diet professionally. Like when you go in there, you can see the professionalism of the fighters. And I feel like that's kind of a testament, and it carries over, like say, both women and male. But there's a lot of women coming through, especially on that show. He has a lot of women coming through. So it's kind of fun to watch. Like say, like even like the low level women are performing at such a high level, if that makes sense. So that there's going to be a fresh new wave of talent coming through that's going to be great to watch. And again, like the talent pool's just, there's so many more women getting into it now. I feel like it's been normalized a lot more. Like say like used to have to travel to find these women, because they would literally be like one or two scattered around here and there, and now you have these super gyms with like multiple, like whole teams of women, and that was kind of unheard of like a few years ago. So it's definitely growing, and it's great to watch and be a part of.
One other thing I've noticed with your fights, Cory, is that at the end of rounds you raise your hands a lot of the time, and I was like, is that because you feel like that's influencing judging in a certain way, or is that just kind of like a habit you've got into? Why is that?
So like I say, like, I'm not really sure stuff like that actually influences the judges. At the end of the day, they're looking at what goes on in the round. But everyone always says that stuff like that does, it puts that image in their mind, especially if the round was close. For me, it's a case of like, I like to feel like I've won at the end of the round. I like to go into the next round positive. I actually hate it when rounds finish, especially after that, losing my, that pro fight that I lost. It was a controversial decision, and like literally every fight after that, like if I got to the second round, I'm like, I need to finish this. Like I hate even the thought of it going to the judges. So for me, like a round finishing is kind of frustrating to me, but I like to feel like say, like if I feel like I've won or I feel like it's close, like I like to kind of be like, no, that was my round. Like I like to kind of like you say, it does make me feel a bit more positive. It's definitely a habit that they try to build. Like at the end of practice, they have us raise our hands and stuff. I'm always the one that doesn't really like to do it in the practice room, because I feel like that's not where I get my wins. Like I feel like I have to earn it. So when I'm in a fight, like I'm kind of like, oh, I've earned this. Like I get to put my hands up. I'm winning. Like I'm, it's kind of like one of those things. It's like a bit, like definitely a bit mental, I suppose. Yeah.
Cory, how much can you announce about what's coming up? Are you got to be quite tight-lipped about this, or can we get any kind of news as to your next fight, who it's going to be or where it's going to be?
I actually don't know, because they haven't announced anything, but I've signed the contract. And I'm not always the best at reading contracts all the way through, so I don't know what I'm allowed to say, but I can say that it's at the start of next year. I don't really know what I'm allowed to say.
Is it pay-per-view or a fight night?
I think it's a fight night, but I think it's definitely err on the side of caution.
Yeah, well, we don't want to get you in trouble. We do want to know, but we don't want to get you in trouble.
I'll give you a hint. I might be getting my Nando's.
Oh, great news. We will tell no one. Guys, whoever's listening to this, tell no one. But Cory might be getting her Nando's.
I mean, I guess one of the places that this fight, when you're allowed to talk about it, will be social media. And so with that in mind, tell us about, we like to ask fighters about the world that we live in now. Is obviously, how you perform in the octagon is paramount. However, there's so many fighters now that are creating huge profiles for themselves with the way that they sort of promote themselves, how they trash talk, and so much of this is done on social media. The way that you've sort of described your sort of meticulous breakdown of, post fights and things like that, it all sounds like everything is very, very well thought out and structured. I just wondered how you approach social media. Is that something that, because that's something that once you put it out there, that control's gone, because you're then open to the trolls and you're open to everything else. I just wonder how you deal with social media, and if you feel that it's something that you need to, have that kind of presence online as well for that side of the sort of the marketing and the social media profile. I know I've made that quite a long-winded question there, Cory, but do you get where I'm going with it?
I've fallen asleep, Cory. I don't know about you, but I am asleep right now.
Like you say, like social media these days it's essential. Like at the end of the day, if you don't have a social media presence, you don't have that following, you don't have that backing. So it's definitely something that I've needed from a business perspective. Like I could live without it, but from like a sponsorship front, from you're like, especially when you get to stuff like, I have people that support me, and I do appreciate that, which means I do want to obviously allow them to follow along, give them a way to support me and stuff. So for me, it's just a case of like, I just try to be myself. Like at the end of the day, like I don't want to be one of these people that's like, just putting on an image and a facade and like being someone I'm not. So like for me, it's just a case of like, I post what I feel, I say what I want. Every post I put up, I try to express like gratitude to my training partners and my sponsors and everything. And it's just a case of like allowing people kind of like a little insight into the person that they are seeing fighting. 'Cause at the end of the day, like you know, it's easy to see these people on the screen, but obviously a lot of people do want to relate to people on a further level and, you know, see that they are people outside of the fights in the cage. So for me, like, I definitely think it's important from, like you say, like from a support standpoint. And like I say, I just try to be my genuine self. Like, you know, there's no marketing ploy, there's no hidden agenda. Like, I'm just trying to give people a way to kind of like see what I'm doing and who I am.
Wonderful.
Cory, thanks so much for your time. We've really appreciated it today. I just want to say as well, I mean, you seem like someone that's so just driven to be the best you can possibly be. And that's a fantastic mindset to have. And you have to have that mindset to achieve what you want to achieve. But, you know, there's no problem with smelling the roses. You've achieved a lot in a very short period of time. And this mentality of getting that gold medal and just putting it in the bag, I completely understand it. But I want you to know, and I'd like you to take with you this idea of, you know, you can also congratulate yourself a little bit. And I hope you do that, and you do that going forward, because you don't want to look back and go, oh, I achieved so much and I never congratulated myself. You know, you got to smell the roses as well.
No, thank you. I've definitely started, like, say, like, I look for the small wins and the positives now. Like, you know, I don't beat myself up. That's what I was saying earlier. Like, as much as I can be like critical, I don't beat myself up over stuff. Like you say, like, you know, I had boxing sparring yesterday, and like I was talking to my coach and I was like, hey, I messed up on this and this. I was like, but I landed this that we were working on, and that to me was like my goal. Like, I try to set little goals each day, each week, to just kind of like try to smash in training, and that way I get my little wins as well as getting my improvements and my criticisms. So I'm not beating myself up all the time, don't worry.
Brilliant. Well, good to hear it.
Absolutely. Thanks loads, Cory, and hopefully after your next win, we'll come and find you and buy you a Nando's.
Hey, I'm down. Yeah, definitely.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Cory McKenna, thanks
Thank you so much.
Thank you.